Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Horticulture Minute for us. Today, I'm Duane Rigsby. I'm accompanied with Brad Bergefurd, a member of the South Centers at Piketon Horticulture Program. Brad, how are you doing today?
Oh, we're doing really good. Farming's going at it down southern Ohio here. We had a little bit of a freeze injury last week, but other than that, the strawberry harvest is coming up and tomatoes are being harvested in greenhouses and the season has begun.
Great, great. I know, and currently we're doing this a little different way just because of this pandemic and things that's going on. But hey, we're going to try to continue educating people as most as we can. And I know, Brad, you've talked a lot about a new thing coming out for Ohio anyway, is hemp.
Yeah, correct, Duane. Hemp just became legal here in Ohio about a month ago, so we're getting a lot of calls in at the South Centers about from farmers looking at that as a possible crop opportunity for them.
Awesome. And you said it just came about this year, correct? Or was it last year?
It just became legal in Ohio a month ago for farmers, but it became legal for us researchers a year ago, correct?
Okay, good, good. And I know you've got a pretty good slide set that you want to go through. So how about let's go ahead and start it off there, and I'll just jump in with some questions as we go.
Yeah, the one crop I'm going to talk about is hemp today. Like Duane said, a year ago, it became legal for us Ohio State University researchers to conduct research on this crop. It's not a new crop for Ohio, but we quit growing it 85 years ago when it became illegal under the Marijuana Act, the Federal Marijuana Act. So we have not produced any hemp in Ohio for 85 years. So needless to say, we're a little behind on our research and extension information that we can provide for growers. But this year, it's now legal for Ohio growers to apply for a license to the Department of Agriculture and to grow hemp. However, this is the reason I want to speak today. We learned a lot last year from doing our test plots. We had test plots at our Piketon South Centers. We had test plots down at the Adams County Airport down in Adams County, Ohio. And we had several greenhouse and field plots over at Farm Science Review, up at Worcester, up at Muck Crops, up in Celeryville, Ohio, and Willard area. And so we learned a lot, and that's what I'm going to share with you very quick today, just an overview. We will post some links because we have 6 hours of virtual recordings, virtual trainings on hemp that we've been doing the last month or so. So we can post those links. I'm sure you can get those afterwards if you'd like to watch some of these trainings a little bit more in depth. But like Duane said, I'm a horticulture research and extension specialist at South Centers, and my main job is just to try to research and teach farmers any high value specialty crops that can be raised on their farms, especially small acreage farms. That's what we need in Southern Ohio, as a crop that'll generate large amounts of money per square foot, since we can't grow large acreage of grain crops on many of our farms. So I want to thank a couple of the folks. Steve Ayers of Cella Biomedical down in Maysville, Kentucky, is who we work with real close on last year's field research trials, and James Morris from OSU Extension, and then Dr. Greg Schlettenhofer from our other land-grant university, Central State University. Craig actually started there about a year ago, but did a lot of work in Kentucky on hemp. So he's a great resource we have for Ohio, and he's trained and helped me a lot learning this hemp thing. So real quick, we only got 20 minutes or so, but what is hemp? It's a summer annual. That means it's not a perennial crop. Its sister is hops. That's the closest relative to hemp, which we've been growing hops now at South Centers for almost 10 years. Hops are perennial. Hemp is an annual, so keep that in mind. Gets really tall, 3 to 15 feet, depending on cultivar, depending on the type of hemp. It is a bast fiber plant. It was used for rope production back 85 years ago. Makes some great rope. So that's one of its characteristics, is that really fibrous plant material that it produces. It is a sister to marijuana, which is the problem for us growing it, because that's why it got illegal 80 years ago. And then there's this thing called tetrahydrocannabinol, or cannabinol, CBD, THC is what I call it. That THC that's in hemp gets us into problems when we grow it as a hemp crop. Marijuana, that's the THC in it that gives people the high from marijuana. Hemp is a sister crop, so it does have some THC characteristics in it as well. So that's what gets us in trouble, and we'll quickly share that with you, what we learned last year. But again, it's been being used for over 10,000 years. This is what a hemp field looks like in the main season around July, August. Lots of, if you have not grown a specialty crop like strawberries, tomatoes, hops before, and you're just a corn or soybean farmer, you will have a lot to learn before you get into growing hemp, because it's very similar to our other specialty crops that we produce. It's very good for us down in southern Ohio, because another specialty crop, tobacco, you see here's one of my farmers with a load of tobacco going down the road, has been grown for many generations, and a lot of the infrastructure that we need to produce hemp for CBD production, oil production, is very similar to tobacco. You need a drying barn, you need to dry it in the mow, you need to hand cut it, hand hang it. A lot of the similar production practices we do for tobacco, we need for CBD hemp. So that's why it's a really good fit for us Southern Ohio farmers that have been growing tobacco for many generations. So what I'm going to talk about today is the CBD floral material market. That's the bud you see there that's growing on the plant. That's what we would extract the oils, the CBD oil from. So you may be hearing a lot about CBD oil. That has been a very hot market for the last 4 or 5 years. So the states that had it legal really cashed in. I'll share a graph with you. Since then, the CBD, in the last not even a year, about 8 months, the CBD market has really crashed. But we'll talk about that real quick here too. But we're just going to talk about CBD hemp floral material today, because that's the only infrastructure we have, both marketing and processing infrastructure developed in Ohio as of today that I'm aware of. And talking to my other hemp team members, they're not aware of any infrastructure or marketing established in Ohio to this point for the fiber market or the seed market. So if a farmer wants to grow today and do an agreement with a company or a marketer to buy today, CBD is the only hemp crop that can be marketed and processed in Ohio as of today. So that's what we're going to touch base on here real quick, and then share my experiences from last year. Like I said, it's the only processing marketing infrastructure developed in Ohio as of today. So that's why if you're looking to grow fiber or seed, which is a little bit easier, more tractor work, not as much money, but we don't have the infrastructure developed. We need to recruit some investors to invest in that infrastructure before we can produce. So don't grow that crop yet. Basically, don't grow any hemp crop unless you have a marketing agreement or a contract in hand. Unlike produce crops, corn, soybeans, where you can just go buy seed, plant it, and sell it, not that easy on hemp. You have to have a market established with a contract in hand. A CBD crop like this is going to cost you at least $10,000 an acre to grow. Unlike corn costs us $1,000 an acre to grow. This CBD hemp crop is going to cost you $10,000, and you'd hate to grow the crop. That's not counting your labor. Spend all that time working on it, and then get ready to harvest and have no market for the crop. So do you take nothing more home today? Have a market set up way in advance. This is what a typical CBD field looks like. It looks very similar to what you see on our other specialty crops, strawberries, melons, peppers, tomatoes. We all use plastic culture on this crop. It's all under drip irrigation. We fertigate it, we hand plant it, hand harvest it. Very similar to all of our other specialty crops, but this is a view from one of our Kentucky farms just across the river down around Maysville from last year. We grow it on white plastic because high heat from black plastic can actually increase those THC levels that we don't want. If we go above 0.3%, which is the federal legal limit for THC in hemp, the sheriff will come and burn your field, and the companies will not buy it because that's the regulated. If you go above 0.3%, it's considered marijuana and it becomes an illegal crop at that point. I was saying how great the market has been for CBD. As you can see there, this was for Acela CBD, which is the company in Kentucky we work with. Their contracted growers in 2018 were receiving gross sales of $75,000 per acre. In 2019, that went down, but it wasn't too bad. It was still $20,000 per acre. 2020, it's up in the air. I do want to mention in 2019 last year, in Kentucky, where there was a lot of contract acres, a lot of the CBD processors went bankrupt and never did buy those farmers' crops. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of CBD hemp still hanging in the barn. It's probably trashed by now or plowed under or spread back to the field because those companies went bankrupt and never did. So there's a big class action lawsuit by several hundred farmers against these companies. So just keep in mind, it's a risky crop at this point, whether you want to enter this market or not. Here's the price markets over the last past year, and you can see where what we're looking at is the bottom line. That's the one for CBD hemp. And you see we hit that peak there 1st of August, and the market's just been on a downward trend ever since. So this is from December, but the last I looked, it's still going downward. So they always say it goes back up in the spring. It's not increasing this spring. You just don't want to buy any seed or any plant. You just don't want to type in hemp on the internet and buy the first plant that pops up. You have to grow the variety your buyer wants. Plus, you want to buy a variety that's true to type. I'll mention that THC problem. You don't want to just buy something that hasn't been tested and came from a good strain of mother plants that is a low THC variety, because we have enough issues with low THC varieties, let alone to go buy one that has not been bred to be low THC. In Ohio, you cannot grow hemp unless you get yourself a license from the Department of Ag, and there's a $500 application fee, plus a lot of site fees. It's a very expensive from a regulatory licensing standpoint to grow hemp in Ohio. So there is, again, that's a regulatory thing. Ohio Department of Ag takes care of all that, and that has to be done well in advance of planting any hemp in Ohio. You will need an irrigation source, ponds. Down by Piketon, we have the Taze Valley Aquifer with a lot of big, deep wells, any type of an irrigation source, but it will need to be irrigated. Again, you don't give that plant the moisture and keep that moisture in equilibrium when it needs it, your THC levels are going to spike, then the sheriff takes your crop. If you use an open body of water, you'll need a filtration system like this. If you ever come down the south centers of Piketon, we have these same setups that you can view and set up on your own farm. Most of the time for CBD, little fields like this are going to work, which is a typical Southern Ohio farm, Southern Ohio fields, and this is what you'll be seeing is these smaller patches. We're not going to be talking 20, 50, 100 acre fields of CBD. You need some specialty equipment, not too unfamiliar to our specialty crop growers, but we use Waterwheel Setters for specialty crops, other tomatoes, peppers, strawberries, same thing on CBD hemp. Like I said, we do put it on plastic mulch with raised beds because there are no herbicides labeled. So we use the mulching material as a weed barrier, and we'll use a piece of equipment like this to raise up the beds and lay down the plastic and the drip irrigation tape all at the same time. This is us down at our Adams County plots at the airport last summer. Just laying plastic, works the same way always does. If you're not a specialty crop farmer, this may be a little new to you, but once you get it set up, it works really well. Here's we're using the Waterwheel Setter, and the plants will come as plug plants, and those come from your market. So if you're growing for CBD, the company you're growing with will provide you the plants because they only want certain varieties, and those that Waterwheel Setter punches a hole in the plastic, gives it a shot of water in the hole, punches the hole for you, and then you go ahead and plant the plant right through the hole in the plastic. This is about mid-season growth. Ours were a little later last year just because it didn't become legal in Ohio, 100% legal till August. We don't plant this crop in August. We plant it in April or May, but our crop we planted in August ended up growing pretty good. We added some supplemental lighting, as you can see in the back of this slide. This was at our Adams County Airport, and we would light the field up. It was receiving 24 hours light 7 days a week. So when it got dark, we turned on the supplemental lighting on this acre field, and that's why we got good growth. Our fields like at Piketon, where we did not provide supplemental lighting, never got that tall because hemp will flower on the shorter days of summer. So once we hit the summer solstice, the end of June or so, that plant's automatically triggered to go into a reproductive state, not vegetative. By us turning on the additional lighting, we were able to keep our plants vegetative longer, and then they started flowering later. But a farmer would not typically do that. One of my Kentucky farmers field getting really close to harvest. We do want to start drying down a little bit in the field, but this is when we would call the Department of Ag, and they send people out, and they'll have to take representative samples of this field, sample it for those THC levels, which will come back 2, 3, 4 days later. They give you the green light to harvest. We don't just harvest when we want. The Ohio Department of Agriculture will tell you. If your results come high THC, I think the next call they make is to the county sheriff, and the sheriff will come and confiscate that field, and they literally will burn the field. Many farms in Kentucky last year had fields confiscated and burnt. This is at harvest. This is within days. This farmer was within days of harvest. So you can see the crop starts drying down. This was early part of November. And there's the bud. As of last year, farmers were cutting the plant and stripping everything. Leaves, buds, everything into the same bin. I'll show you the bins here in a little bit. The talk is they only want buds this year, which is going to be a bear to strip that once it comes out of the drying barn. We just harvest with a set of loppers, just like you cut pumpkins or anything else with. Cut the big plant off, throw it onto the wagon. So you need big wagons. These are big bushy plants, and you got to figure out any way to keep them from falling off. So this farmer used a cattle panel, ratcheted, strapped it down to take it up to the drying barn. Now, typical tobacco drying barn is what you'll need, and so this is why it fits our Southern Ohio growers well, because we have lots of these around the countryside. And we hang it in the barn. We don't use tobacco sticks, but we do take the branches, because this is a branching plant. Unlike tobacco, you had a spirit and you hang it on the rails with the tobacco sticks. With hemp, we just hang it on the rails, no sticks, because it's a branching plant. We just hang it from the branches throughout the plant. An acre tobacco barn will house 0.3 of an acre of hemp, just because it's such a bushier plant. So don't plant an acre for an acre tobacco drying barn, because it ain't gonna fit. You're gonna have 3 times the space to dry hemp compared to tobacco. So it'll dry in the barn, a month, 2 months. Usually it's all processed by Christmas. Like I said, in Kentucky, there's a lot still hanging in the barn. It's pretty well trashed by now, just because those processors went bankrupt and did not buy the crop. This is what it looks like when the buyer wants it and it's dried down in the barn. We just strip it, put a gloved hands on, and everybody takes those plants back down out of the barn, and you just strip everything. So this is put into gondolas, super sacks. We're not going to use cardboard no more. The cardboard, our experience from working with the Acela folks, the CBD oil gets drawn into that cardboard. So we're going to use the poly super sacks from now on, and no more cardboard. But you just have these sitting around the barn, and you just take a glove hand, pull everything off. Like I said, next year it might be just the buds. They may not want to buy the leaf material, which is going to be a real pain when it comes to stripping, but we'll see what they have to say. Again, I'm not sure where we're at on time, but we have posted some of our preliminary research results from last year. We have a couple links to some of our other sites and other fact sheets that we've been developing, and we'll continue to add more fact sheets, more research results, more of these trainings, and so forth to our hemp website that we have. So I don't know where we're at on time, Duane. I'd be happy to talk a little bit more about hemp if we still got some time left. But
we've got about 6 minutes left, Brad.
Okay.
I do have a couple of questions for you. One, you said obviously when you need to have a contract in hand before you grow, and then you said does the people that's making the contract, do they get you the seed or the variety that you want, or how do you?
Yes,
quite
correct.
That.
Correct. When you sign and we're talking CBD, because that's all we can do in Ohio, but the CBD processor has this CBD oil is a very persnickety market. They want certain varieties. They want certain purities. One thing I forgot to mention, I mentioned there's no herbicides, but everybody wants it grown organically, no synthetic insecticides or fungicides. So because CBD is an organic product, so they do want a pure product and they want it variety specific. So the cherry, for example, is a very popular CBD variety, but there's many offshoots of cherry. So if you were to grow for a cell of CBD, for example, and do an agreement or a contract with them, they have their particular strains of cherry variety that they grow that they will provide you. Yes, so you will get the seed and the plants from your processor that you have signed the agreement with. They will not accept any other non varieties that they do not process because it contaminates their processing facility. Gotcha.
And then I guess one of the other questions is obviously when you get that seed, and you were talking about planting it on plastic, what would keep let's just say the outside public from being nosy? Is there signs that you post? How does one keep an intruder out thinking that it might be a little more powerful CBD?
We highly suggest from our experiences last year, we did not put signs at the Adams County Airport, which is off on and it's actually, they don't fly planes in there no more. So it's back by itself. Nobody got into the field. Nobody took any plants. We did not post signs. At the Worcester campus at the Ag Tech Institute, the college up there, they posted signs and the students stole the plants, thinking just what you thought, that it was different type of hemp. So my suggestion would be, in Adams County on this desolate country road, you would have thought if anybody was going to steal it, would have happened there. Nobody touched it. I'd say I don't think the Ohio Department of Agriculture has made that a regulatory requirement to post it. So I would suggest, from my experience, not posting it. Don't draw any more attention to it. Most people just look at it and scratch their heads. What is that crop? So
what is that? Yeah,
but
exactly.
Good point.
Yep. I understand. So so obviously that makes sense if you can just kind of ignore it and hopefully you're not farming on a main road, I guess. And then one last thing, when you sell it, do you said you had to glove, so do you have to glove everything, and then how does that work? Do you have to be suited up? Do you have to have a respirator on? Because smelling that stuff too.
Right. The farms that I was on last fall helping to harvest, we did not use the respirator. It wasn't that dusty, and we were doing it in these big barns. But I would say somebody that might be it's more of an allergen to them, they may want to wear a mask. I think we just use gloves because it'll tear you up because of that vast fiber plant material. As you're dragging your hand across it, you have it all tore up. So that's why we were using gloved hands. But, no, as far as I know, the ones I was in and doing, there was no real requirements for suiting up, but it could probably impact some people differently than others.
Okay, cool. And then the last question, we've got about a minute or so left. How can we get more information, Brad? How do we get a hold of you, or we contact the extension agent we're in the county?
Yeah. Yeah,
Straight
or
to you folks.
all the above. We've been helping and educating our county extension educators, so they could be the first stop, and they'll help you to the point that they know. And
Mhm.
then they're always free to contact me as well. South Center's the website address was there, and
Mhm.
just like all the speakers, you can always get a hold of us down there. You can email me bergefurd.1@osu.edu, and I'll be happy to share any experience I have from limited since last August, but I've learned a lot, and it is a crop you need to take caution of, because a lot of those farms that really cashed in the last 3 years lost everything last year in Kentucky just because of the market crash and the processors
Right.
going bankrupt. So just be very cautious is all I can say, and do your homework and
Okay.
have your market established in advance.
That's wonderful information on this new crop that we can raise. Brad, it's been a pleasure. I think we're going to do this again with
Yep.
a couple other different talks as we go throughout the weeks and months. Um, Again, for everyone listening, we are located at the OSU South Centers. Visit our website at southcenters.osu.edu. And until next time, Brad, we'll probably be on the screen one more time or a couple of times anyway until this pandemic gets cleared up a little bit. But until next time, we'll see everyone next week.
Yep. Thanks a lot.